that's out.
Oh, my mother's maiden name, well, it was Punch. Kitty Punch.
And
what about her, like?
And she had a sister. She had two sisters. She was Lily, who died. Oh, wait. How long would Lily be dead now? But I know Lily, but I never knew the other two sisters there. There was Jenny and Mary Nora. And my grandmother's name was Josephine Punch. But I can't think. I think her own name was McAuliffe. You know the grave outside, the day under that grave, the McAuliffes.
And they lived in Kyle Street.
Well, my grandfather, they were from Kyle Street, isn't it? Kyle Street is the one there by the Bridewell.
By Kilgrove.
Yeah, they were the Punches there in the Bridewell. And my grandfather, he was a sawyer. He worked in, as far as I know, in Doneraile.
What's a sawyer?
What's
a sawyer?
My own father.
No, but what is it?
They used to work on this, you know, the sawmills, and
Oh, yeah.
the sawyer, he was a sawyer. That's what he was, and he was a musician. He was in Barrack Street Band. That was my grandfather, Punch. Nicholas Punch was his name. That's about all I know about that family. Then there was my father's side then. My father was Con Chambers. He had how many brothers? Denny, Joram, Willie, and Johnny. Johnny was a hunchback, little hunchback. And he had two sisters, Mary and Julia.
And where did they live? Where did they live?
Mary lived up in Blarney Street. Julia then was married. Her husband was in India. She went to India after, but she came back. She died here. And her husband died here. And
how did she end up in India? How did she end up in India?
her husband was in the British Army, and when he came out, he joined Indian Police. And she was here about 16 years before she went out to India. He was out there all the time, but when they came back, then there. Mary, then she lived in Blarney Street. Her husband was Denny Gorman. He worked in Fords. He had a brother then, Donald Gorman. He was a presentation brother for a couple of years, but he came out of it and he got married. That's a long time ago now. I didn't know him too well, like, but that's.
And what about the others then?
It was my mother.
No, Willie and...
They never married.
And where do they live?
Court Street, 34 Court Street.
I have a vague memory when I was a kid.
Huh?
I have a vague memory when I was a kid of seeing...
Yeah, they lived in Court Street. They never known that they married. There's only my father. Well, my father, then my grandfather, that was my father's father. He was from Ballineen, so he's out by Taddy's, Ballineen. I think that they're there, yes.
There's the Chambers.
The Chambers, yes.
Yeah.
And Ballineen. And one uncle, Joram, he used to always go out to him, but I never met him. There was one of them then had the Bowler's Rest pub in Dublin Hill. I think her name was Margaret. She be first cousin of my father's. And then there was the Superintendent Chambers. He was a cousin of my father's. He was living in I think up in Victoria Cross direction. He's dead now, God be with him. Yes, I never met him. And then there's, my Uncle Denny in England. He's the only one married himself to my father. Then I had... He had two daughters and a son. The son is dead, and one of the daughters is dead. There was one left in... But I didn't hear from her at all lately. I suppose she's... There was Risa Mora and her brother Donny. He was married, that was my uncle, he was married to her. His wife's own name was Burns. Lily Burns was her own name. She's dead now, she's not dead, she's a very well woman. She's dead now, but they're living in England, in Warding in Sussex. And that was my father's side, but my mother had a brother, Tom. He went as a young fellow to India, or to, not India, South Africa.
Oh, that was the Boer War, was it?
Yeah, and he never came back. He came back once, I believe, but then he had a son, Norman. No, Norman, that was his son. Norman is dead now too, and he had a daughter, Eileen. Well, Eileen's son was here with me. How long ago was that? Must be 6 years ago. Derek is his name. He's living in Durban in South Africa. And Norman had a daughter and a son.
Terence and Colleen.
Terence and Colleen. But I never heard from them. I was never in touch with them. Like, he only told me that when he came here, but he died a few years ago there. My mother, then, as far as I know, she was born in Blarney Street. At the end, up by the, what's the name of that hill coming down from Goran? Dr. Buckridge had a place there. No, late, well, a bit ago. I always heard her tell me she was born there. But
it's not Baker's Road, is it, that one?
It's a Granabra Road. At the end of there by there was the pub road, Nailus Manual.
Oh, I know the one, yeah, by Doris Buildings. That,
down from it, down
yeah,
there.
Down that hill, like. Yeah.
At the end there, I believe she was born there, from what I remember. As they asked Kathleen Lynch one time, why did she like being born in Cork? She said she wanted to be near her mother. Bobby?
It's okay.
It's grand.
Is any more now I can think of?
How did your mum and dad meet? How did your mum and dad meet?
How they what?
How did they meet?
How did
Your
they meet?
mother and father, yeah.
I have no idea. I think when they lived down the marsh, everybody knew everybody, like, you know. I mean, mother only lived down the corner in Peter Street, from where my father lived, like.
And what age were they when they married?
Oh, I have no idea.
No idea.
No idea. I wasn't around then,
But Kitty used to play the box, didn't she?
Oh, my mother used to play the old accordion always. She used to tell me how to play it. And when I was young fella, then she had a big house in Peter Street, and she had a sublet, and they were building out in Crusher, electricity transformer down in outside Limerick, isn't it?
Sinclair, yeah.
And the two Germans used to stay in the house. I was only a young fella, and they were home on holidays. They brought me back a small little melodeon, and I remember my mother used to, and I still play well. I'm retired. My fingers are gone on strike. So that my mother used to play always there. But Lily, then, that was my aunt. She lived with us in Peter Street. And there was something over the house or something. We had to get out of the house. I was a young fella. I remember I going to Blarney Street School. But my grandfather was a great musician. He used to play the euphonium.
The what?
The euphonium, and that is it.
What is it?
What kind of euphonium?
It's a cross between a tuba and a trumpet.
He was in the Barrack Street Brass Band.
It's a brass. You'd often see
But I remember saying he used to play the euphonium, and he used to be trying to teach me music. So he might well be trying to teach the dog there, and he used to have a blackboard. We teaching me music. That's a couple of years ago now. I think that's all I can. Oh, then on my father's side, then I don't know. I never knew my grandmother or grandfather because apparently they all died. That's my father's mother died when they were very young. But he had cousins. They lived in St. Luke's, the Toomeys. There was Rita, Kitty, Nellie. Wait now, when I think of that, Nellie, Julia. Julia worked in the Munster Arcade, and Mamie. Mamie was a school teacher. Bobby. He was not a school teacher. Mamie was a school teacher, and Kitty. Kitty was a school teacher. Kitty taught in Peter and Paul's, and Mamie taught in St. Vincent's. In fact, Kitty was teaching Marie for a spell. And when we tried to get Marie into the secondary school, you couldn't get him in that time, you know. But it was Kitty, like, put in a sport for her, got her in there. But they were my father's first cousins. And they're all dead now, except their son, what's his name? He worked in Rochester Stores. Brendan Collins. He's a son of Rita's. And I know too much about him. I used to call up to him, but I didn't know too much about him. But my father used to always go up to him. But my grandfather was a Protestant, as far as I know. My grandfather Chambers, but he was a convert. But I remember my father telling me he was very strict on him.
He had his wood making place or something. He had a furniture making place, did he, or something?
He was a carpenter. He had his own business, I think. He was what they call carpenters on the West Cork. You should know that. They make chicken coops. But he was a carpenter, my grandfather, but I never know his name. I was called after him, Jeremiah. He was Jeremiah Chambers.
And why did he move from Ballineen? That's the guy who moved from Ballineen. Is he the one who moved from Ballineen?
He was from Ballineen.
And why did he move to Cork?
I don't know. Like they're still, I believe, in Ballineen. There are some of them left in Ballineen, in Tadys. Upper Tadys, and there's lower Tadys or something, but they were upper Tadys in Ballineen. So you might be able to call it them. They probably ask who am I then. I never went there. My father never went there, but my uncle Joram did go. I used to call out to him all the time, but I never do. I remember. And I think the aunt in Blarney Street, her husband, he was some relation to the Kellys in Crosshaven. You know Kelly's Cross?
Oh, yeah.
Well, we used to go down to Mrs. Kelly down there, you know.
And what was he going to say? There was something else he was going to say now. Oh, yes. Tell Sarah about is it Whiting Bay your father used to take you on holidays to?
Oh, Whiting Bay, yeah.
I know, tell her about that house. Like,
yes, you go across them on a train, you all. And the man that owned the house, I know his name now, but it's a long time ago. He used to meet us with a Model T Ford. Sort of sports shaker. And so a little house, a big house, and it's run by the sea there in Whiting Bay. I remember when a young fellow used to go to Mass there more, and they'd go to Mass up on top of Pony. I was talking about Robert Taylor there yesterday and the cowboy one.
But Kitty never went on holidays with you, no?
No, she went on once and she ran mad out of it. She said nothing down here but cows. She ran mad out of it. The Whiting Bay, it was a big farmhouse. I believe that's all gone now.
But you went down, Michael took you down, didn't he?
Oh, Michael took us down there once, all right.
Yeah. And the house is...
It was gone.
Just
nothing at all there.
Yeah.
The house fell into the sea, I believe. It was on the edge, like, you know. They used to prop it up with kind of big stakes and that fell into the sea. That's the house we used to say. I knew their name. My father then worked in Woodford Bordens. He was there 43 years, I think. And they never paid anyone.
Well, you should tell Sarah about bottling day when he used to be siphoning when your father used to siphon remember you had to siphon it to fill the bottles or something. Oh
yeah, I used to siphon. I used to forget to take this thing out of his mouth. He was absent-minded now, yeah. He was a good man, but he was a different man altogether. But if he had drinking, but he never drank. Like, but 2 days a week he used to be bond there. They're bottling the whiskey and they'd have to suck it up. An awful
Terrible job.
Yeah, I think when Adam was making his pudding, they had better gear than that. Both Nicholson's owned to that, but they were no good. They were never any good. The way they paid and treated the workers was terrible. I worked there for 3 weeks when I came home from England.
Oh yeah, tell her about the Christmas deliveries, you were telling me that.
Oh yeah, I used to go and God be with him, he's dead now, Shawnee Dempsey, but Jula, her brother. And every delivers over the Pony and Trap. They go up all around the south side, the Magazine Road, and back in around down the Western Road, delivering all drink, and when they come to it was Christmas, the people just come in and say, you must have a drink now, like, and the drink that. When I got back to the job, I couldn't stand, and old Nicholson says, you gave a lecture to all the workers, it was a bad year, like, he only probably made $1 million, but it was a bad year. And all this, he must have a drink now. And he says, he never told you by your Christian name, like, Young Chambers, what are you having? I'll be with me first. I don't drink at all, and I couldn't stand up. I used to drink either, I didn't know, but got be with Sean, he said, take a drink there. And someone wanted to say, here's £5 now, and he stop and go to Victoria Cross, what do you call it? What was the name of it? The pub in there. And the only one sober come back was the old Janet that we were driving. That's a long time ago now. So I packed up. Then I went back to England. I went to Glasgow. I went back to Glasgow. Then I went to work in Glasgow. I had is it 15 shillings a week in Woodford Bordens. I gave to my mother. I had up the money. And she said, come on, I'll buy me out and take out for a drink out to the, what was that pub? Oh, Connelson and that, Mill Street. But she said, how's he going to get a wheelbarrow up the stairs? She said to him. He was an awful old, well, it wasn't his fault, that's the way he was reared, I say. But he was a real old tougher priest, He never fitted down the march, like, He would have done open St. Luke's, all right, like, but that'll do, he sent up in a wheelbarrow.
When did you go to England? When did you go to England?
At the start of the war. Well, I worked in a garage and I worked down in Woolham's, down Patrick's Quay. And I was there 6 years. A dog's body there I was. A dog's body. If the motor mechanics want a hand, Dermot, he used to call me Dermot, like, he was very grand, he was from Douglas. Dermot gave a hand there. But I was there 6 years. I think I had about 25 bob a week. But he used to give me a bonus off all sales. He called me in every month and opened out the books, and in fairness to him now, like, although. And although the man was, I know what religion he was, but I was in the choir in St. Peter and Paul's, That's where I got all my singing training. when to be Tenebrae, like, we had to get off, but he'd always tell me that, but it was easy for me, he hadn't paid me nothing. But he'd always, every month, he'd open the books and he'd give me, and I'd come home and give to my mother. My mother used to give me a shilling, go down to Savine House Sunday night by. And I was as happy as Larry. Wobble he was, but I was very happy. Down to Savoy. And she might call me back, and he has troubles, you can get clove rocks with him. But I was there 6 years, and then they were all coming back from England. The war just started, out of great money over in England. So I signed on for the ICI in the Labour Exchange, and I went to Birmingham. That's just about the start of the war. The war was just started. Bobby, I'm like Spike Milligan. Oh, that's how my I defeated Hitler. But I was in England and then when I came home, I was in England and I went up to Bobby. Stop him there, Derry.
He's grand.
No,
Hey.
honestly, Grandad, he's grand. He's grand.
Okay. You're getting ahead of yourself there, Dad. You never talked about your military service, is that right?
Oh yes.
Oh, Derry was telling me about that the other day. Go on.
Oh, the LDF, Dad's army. I had a good laugh in that. I was in that before I went away. And when I was in England and when I came home on my holidays, I went back up to the company I was belonged to. And they said, well, wait for the last couple of months. I said, I decided it was sick or something. But yeah, I was drilling away again when I finished, I went back to England again. But they told us eventually when in England, when we used to come home, you only get a fortnight's holiday. But we used to stay, the passport was good for, there weren't passports, were permits for a month. We used to stay a month. So your man called us in England, he said, if you stay over your time now, you'll be sacked. So when I stayed a month and I went back and said, no employment for you. And I went up to the Labour Exchange there with another fella, the labourers they call it over. And they told us you're only allowed in here to go back to your job, and so they would do a job. So they sent us to Dunlop's. Jesus, Dunlop's was an awful job. But the money was great there. I had about 30 or 40 pound a week, which was marvellous money like at that time, you know.
And you were getting 25 bob here a week before you went?
Well, a motor mechanic here only had £4 a week. And I was earning £40 a week over for, and I knew nothing. Only how to put my hand out. And I worked in Dunlop's then until eventually I never went back to Dunlop's, and I signed on for Glasgow to the shipyard, and I went to the shipyard in Glasgow. And I was there, the war ended, then the war it was almost ended when I came back. Do you know what the pay was in Glasgow? When I had £40 a week in Dunlop's, and I worked in the shipyard, £3 a week.
But you were building an aircraft carrier.
£3 a week.
30 to 3.
And my digs were €35. And just we had nothing, and I used to smoke that time. So we tried to get home. We hadn't a fare to come home either, but we went up to we cancelled our passport, got it cancelled. A fella that was working, he knew all the ropes. I only followed him, like, you know. He went back, they went up to get a voucher home, that one that I couldn't give us one. So I said, oh, we'll fix that, and he went up and he went up to the, what was it was like an immigration office or something. So we went out, had passports cancelled today, just stamped it cancelled. Went back to the Labour Exchange, said we can't stay here, no, our passports is cancelled. So they gave us a voucher home. So we came through Belfast. Never want to go there again. And we were up in Belfast. The old ship there was submarines in the area, and it was zigzagging all the way over. We got a 6 dog, and there was 2 of us in Cork, but the rest the other six were from Dublin. And one Dublin lad got very sick in the British restaurant in Belfast. And he got sick, he vomited up in the respect and a girl came up to him, one of the waitresses, with a mop, said she mopped that up, said she a Free State bastard. I always remember that. And another dumb fella went off and he gave her a dig. And the IUC, they were 2 right looking bastards, they were. They came down, they asked us, where's your residence permits? And they had like carbine, they call them, and revolvers all over them, they were like. And the mayor said, what's the name of the station in Belfast? Victoria Street Station, I think, is it?
I have no idea.
They told us to stay there until the Free State train come in. That was the Dublin train. And we were there all day sitting on the railway, and the train came in and we got down to Dublin. And we got down to Dublin. We couldn't get digs. I slept under Benlow Connell. I always say I slept in Benlow Connell under the Manamate, you know, and the seats are there on the jet seats.
I think they are, yeah.
Yeah, we slept there, and I wouldn't sleep there now, and I sitting down, got down to Cork then, and that was my episode back into the LDF then, and we were told it was being changed. The war was nearly over. So that was my adventure in trying to defeat Hitler. So I enjoyed England. I enjoyed being in England, like, you know, but it was very hard. It was very rough there. We were in digs in England, and there was only room for 4 in the digs, and she had 12. But she'd ask the old lady, said, what kind of a shift are you on? I could say, we're a night shift. If the fella had to be on days, if you were on nights, the week he was on days, she'd take you in. You sleep then, you had to get out of bed in the morning when he come off of the... Jesus, it was...
But what about the Irish? Did they like the Irish there? Or?
I don't blame them for not liking the Irish. They didn't in the way, because there was an awful rough element there. There was a nice element too, but you know, there was some fellas there were rough altogether. The heads in the street there, the placards, you see, comfortable accommodation and all this. No dogs are Irishmen. I took on working in England, like, because I mean, I thought it was a lot better working there than working here, like, you know. I know, well, it might just probably change, you know, but here, when I working down in Nolans, you had any of the staff, you had to call them sir, but they'd call you by your Christian name. But in England, it was nothing like that. It was Jack and Bill and John, and no, even if he was the managing director, so that's what I liked about it, you know. There was some rotten bastards Englishmen too there. There was a fellow over us in Dunlops, Hunt was his name. You hear what the girls used to be driving the forklifts too, you had to hear what they called Hunt. You could rhyme it with Hunt. But he was an awful bastard of a man, he was. Well, we were up in the canteen in Dunlops one night, and I remember when Churchill wanted to take over the post, so they take him over, and De Villiers said no. And when I came out in the news, they all clapped, canteen Englishmen and all clapped De Villiers, except Christie, of course, like, but the Englishmen and all. And there was a lot of Englishmen in Dunlops who worked here in Dunlops and Cork. They had to go off to England during the war then.
Yeah.
But they were nice, like, and we often went over with them. And I was working with a tinker, well, a traveller now they're called on there. Well, he was the greatest, nicest fellow going, like. Maybe if he was with his own, he might. But no, if there's any trouble in the job, then he said, I'll stick with you, he said, I'll stand up for you, and he would too, by, like, you know. But he used to come out for a drink with us, and the Antelope was the name of the pub in Birmingham. In case you ever go over there, I know it's a day or not yet. I used to go up to the pub with us, and sure, I couldn't drink at all, like, 1 point. I still can't drink, but I make an attempt, all right, like, but...
Small attempt.
But I know, they used to come out, Hart was his name, Martin Hart, I remember his name well. But his father was a rotten type. They lived in a campsite up in Fairhill, he told us, at that time, like, you know. There was no houses up here that time. Martin Hart, I remember his name.
But you were saying, remember you were telling me before that you nearly signed up with the British
I did.
Army.
I was going up to Dale End to join. There was a clamp down and travel back to Ireland, and it was miserable over there. Then, like, you know, that was before the invasion, and all travel to Ireland was stopped, and I was getting kind of demented over there. And I met Bobby Lee. No, God be merciful to him. Bobby Lee lived in Peter Street. I met him and we up in the Bull Ring in Birmingham. And so they were going, saying, going up to Dale End. That's where the recruiting office, where they joined the British Army. So don't be a fool, he said, they were looking for cannon fodder. I wasn't a brave man or anything, but anything to get out of the digs and the job I was in. So he stopped me, like, I never then joined.
And you were telling me about, like, when D-Day happened, about the planes.
Oh yeah, the sky was black with planes there, and all the lads were all said, they're all our lads, and all the Irish fellas said, oh, they're the British, and they go mad over that, they're all the English, they're all lads there, the Irish say, oh, they're all the British fellas going over, but on the whole they were all right there, like, you know.
And what kind was the bombing in England when you were there?
There was only one raid in Birmingham, one
Ever?
heavy raid.
Is that all?
One night, I think it was a started, I don't know what our time that night, but we were bombing all night. And the next morning, they were bombing it the next morning, they were dropping landmines. When I went up then, I fell into digs. I went up one time, his aunt, it was in Reading. I said, we go up to our aunt, or down to, they said up to, down to actually, to his aunt in Reading. I went down the train anyway, and they won't put us up in the bed. And that night, we were blown out of the bed, didn't know what happened. I thought someone kicked me out of it. But with the flying bombs, you know, I wouldn't hear a sound like explosion. As she said there, the door box, she only shot from the whip out. We got the next train back to Birmingham. Or there was I'd have wings today, I say.
And what's the photograph you have there? You're in a British uniform, are you?
Oh, that's a fellow was in the digs. And he was in the home, that's a home guard. That's army. And I went down to the pub one night, and your man was working late or something, he was after the old uniform there, and I put it on me. So it was an awful thing to do, it could be. I went down to the pub, and I was down British uniform, the British officer saluted him, and all, he saluted me back. And so the fellow said to me, pub, said, if you're caught with that on you, said he, but home guard was across there, like, you know, like that's how I'm kind of fond of this. The Antelope, down to the Antelope, that's a big any good fight there. Down the Antelope. The Irish again, the Irish would be always fighting. When I was in Glasgow. Glasgow was a rough city. It was then, I know it was now, not probably then, but it was a rough city, Glasgow. Well, I remember being in Glasgow when I come in home, I went in, do you know the things you cover the matchboxes with?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of.
And there was the photographs of Stalin, Churchill and Roosevelt on them, and the three flags of the country at the other side. And I went into a shop in Glasgow, when I come to, I'll bring some of them home now and give them to the at home. And I went in and I asked them for 3 of them. And she took the Scottish accent. She says, are you an Irish laddie? I am, ma'am. So I'm going home. Says, you should be ashamed of yourself buying them. She was selling them. So I always remember that. I like the Scots though. I think the Scots are great though. It's very hard to understand them though. Some of them are very hard to understand them.
What was the place you told me there was a street, is it, or something, or
What?
on the railway bridges in Glasgow?
Oh, that's the Scotsman's Umbrella in Glasgow, is it?
Yeah.
There's in Argyle Street, is Argyle Street? Do you know down the low road where the railway, the bridge goes over, the train goes over the bridge there down by Tifley?
Yeah.
To something like that now, from there now down to Tifley, you know? Railway bridge, big. So there's all shops and all underneath it. But I said to the landlady one time, she said, what that place, but I was trying to explain something to her. Oh, said she, we call that the Scotsman's Umbrella. So a funny name to give it. She said, oh, the Highlanders, when they want to meet, they like the cultures, the Dublin fellow scholars here. They all meet under there, they call the Scotsman's Umbrella. That's in Argyle Street in Glasgow. But the Scots, I think the Scots are lovely. They're fiery, and the Welsh are very fiery. I was up in Birmingham when Sarah went up with when I had done some of the lads went up to town and went into for a drink into a pub. And there was an old debate started. There was a couple of Welshmen sitting down next to us, and they got into putting an argument, a kind of debate on something. And they were talking about something. I forget what it was now, but I busted and I said something. And one of the Englishmen, they were English, they told me, you stay quiet now, Taffy. They used to call me Taffy, they thought I was a Welshman. But I thought the Scots were grand, like they're more like ourselves, like, you know, but they can be saucy too, but the Irish fellas can be saucy also. But the way they landed in Glasgow, shoot really. I only landed there now and up in Argyle Street, we're put in digs and all, and we were along there, and she had a lovely flat upstairs, so it was. And the priest came up, an Irish priest, when they're here, and they come with the priest, came up anyway, and the landlady called me, she said, there's a padre, that's what she said, the padre, but outside the sea. At that time, I was thinking of the wall, and say, well, what's the padre? I thought it was a dog or something. And she said that the clergyman, and when the priest came, he came in, and she brought him into this room, and big roaring fire, and brought in cakes and scones and everything to the priest, and the maid sat down. He asked her to come up to, what's the name of the place? We went up after there was an Irish club there, Patrick, I think that's called, Patrick in Glasgow, and we went up there after, but she was really, then I went along, when I landed there, and I was after I wrote to the tax office in Birmingham. I was here at home from Birmingham about 4 months. When I went home, I wrote to the tax office that how I was idle for 4 months, and I think I sent some verification of it, like I forget now. There was when I went up to, we were all sitting down to dinner, and when I went out, the landlady called me, and when they were touching, I went to wait, well, you're on your own. She said there's a register letter came for you, which was, she said she didn't want to give the ups all the rest of them, but said she asked up yourself what you wrote, but it was a rebate, it was £60, I think, which was a fortune, and like, you know. So that's the time I walked out the job then and tried to come home. We came home. So that was my English experience. But I was 6 years in the garage here, Woolham. It was a remainder. I remember then, when I went here on 6 shillings a week, and I come home, my father said, that's terrible, pay that man, we can ask him for a rise. And of course I wouldn't ask at all, like. And my father asked me, and he said, it's just that mean old bastards you're working for a rise. I said, I will, this is one day, my father, Wednesday was half day, next day I started coming down the key, I tried to come down to me. He went in, walked past me as if he never knew me, called Woolham out. And he said, Woolham on the garage, like. He said, what's up here? My son said, yes, Scanlett wouldn't buy a half a shirt for him. So he went away again, and Woolham called me. He said, Dermot, your father's a very saucy man. And my father wasn't. My father was very quiet. He said, you should have asked me yourself if you have a rise. He said, no, I'll give you a rise now next week, he says. Next week came anywhere. And he gave me a shilling. He gave me a shilling rise. But I made a model ship now, something like that, what's smaller than that one there now. But I had old hobbies one day by the I had a small little bit of a, not putting in an office, like, you know, I'd have to have a book to keep who got tires and who keep all that down, and who handed in their coupons for petrol, and, you know, the petrol was ration that time. But William called me one day. Oh no, his wife said he said to me, said I see model ships there and that. He said my father, he had a shop in McCurtain. So did you know where Williams was at all? There it's by the Presbyterian Church there, next door to that. That was William's shop, and it was a Presbyterian church, isn't it? Anyway, it was a church anyway. But that reminds me of the church in Birmingham. You know, the name, I was one of them, the Church of the English Martyrs. That was the name of the church. The Church of the English Martyrs up in. But William, getting back to William anyway, he said he made them, he made one of them. He said, you haven't. He said, I like to see it. So it's only a small, it wasn't as big as that, small over that size. I think that the Archai, like the one aside the one, but a smaller one. And he said, could I see it? And of course that time I was delighted. I was a young fellow, I was only 16, 17. And I said, that's a couple of years ago now. He says, could I bring it down to see it? I said, no, I get down. So I put into it. Do you remember the big teacher's landlord? tried to cycle with the teachers in front of you in the bike. I brought it down anyway, I took it out carefully. I must take it out, sat Jenny, see, that was his wife. She was one of the Hoskins there on Point Street. They had a pub there, the dirty old pub it was. He lived out in the Cross Douglas Road anyway. He took it out in his car out. And he said, Dermot, I didn't bring that boat at all. He said, I'm not giving it you back. He says, I'll give you whatever you want for it. So, of course, they're going to need you to give all the wall away. He says, but say only cost me 5 shillings to make it. And he said, I give it that in pounds, so he gave me £5, which was, I thought, was a fortune. And his wife came in, got me with her Jenny. She died there last year. She was 100.
Was she?
When I down there, she wasn't 100. She was a smart little, always done up, like, you know. But her anniversary in the paper, she died. But said she, that's a lovely ship, she said. We have it up now, sideboard, no outside. They live in the Cross Douglas Road. So she wanted Harold was it there, Harold Willem, HW here, Harold Willem Herkebeck, that was his full name. What a handle to have. So he gave me a £5. What, she? And she put open her bank, she took to give me another tenner on top of that. That was a farce, and I came home to my mother. My mother said she'd make a couple of them. But then there's a wee fellow used to come down, a traveller from Dublin. I know his name well, Campbell. He was an awful man. He used to stay out in the house, and he asked me would I make one of these. He saw with the ships. So I loved it. One of them said I can get one all over Dublin. And I said I make one. I made one anyway, but I never saw Campbell after. The Campbells are coming. But that was Harold Willem. That was his wife out in Harwick Street.
Just checking the time. See how much time there's left.
We used to go out and the chap in the office there, he was, what's his name, Fern, John Fern.
Oh,
that was his brother, the Fern, you know.
The
He was a mad opera fan, and I used to like opera too. He used to bring all the books of the opera, and I'd read the opera, and he'd go to the opera. He was an old snob at all, now I used to go to the opera with him, to the opera house, for an awful price, too, a shilling to go see Carol Rose opera. And I used to go and he explain all about the opera to me, and so that's that.
But the opera house used to be packed for those things.
Packed, and you'll be massacred going in there. You up the stone steps, and when the door would open, they'd all heave, you know. And then there was a like that. Now there was the office there now for the ticket, and there was a barrier that way. And when you get into there, you'll be like a sandwich to all stone steps going up. We got up into that house, and a fella come out singing it. If they didn't like him, they wrote a beer bottle down the steps. You plump, plump, down the steps. A fella came out one night, we were there at some variety, and he started singing the old lady, you know that? It was my mother taught me how to sing, you know that song? And he came to, it was my man sitting the road out, and she made a bloody bad job of it. I remember that baby, she's gone down to the other. And they were going to the inn for a pint, and then no one was in the bar. So she'd finished, she said, all the pints finished, filled that day. That day, they'd be filled all day. And you go up to be. And they used to squeeze of us, what they call, you know, they'd be on the counter and go with soda water to give a frat up in it, like. No one knew. They're hard days, though. The fellow, it was me, mother taught me how to sing. And before that, he came out and he sang, they gave him a great clapping, you know, he sang some other song. And he said, at last I've made, he says, once I got a claim from the upper crowd, you know, and then he sang, the only year, that finished him. He walked off. She made a bloody bad job of it. You know that song? You haven't heard it, did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was my mother taught me how to sing. There was a place then in Petersfield where I lived, where I was born, a big old house, there's flats, it's gone, you know. It was known as the Arms House. I must have been in Arms House one time, like, you know, the time of Dickens. But there was I've had a poor well, to me that time they were all down and outs living there. But there was Blind Peter. He used to be down by the railway setting down there. I had the blind and may God spare your eyesight. But he was living halfway up the top, and there was a doctor down at the dispensary, Dr. O'Callaghan. He used to wear a big cloak like David Eyre used to wear. And that call young fella, Doctor, come here, little boy, in a squeaky voice. Go up there, he said to Peter, what was his name? And tell him to look out the window. And he says, that you, Peter? Oh, 'tis Doctor. And he was blind. 'Tis Doctor. He was blind, all right, but stick out your tongue. Out his tongue. And he wrote four stories up. He often said that. Take that twice a day. And Blind Peter one day shouting out the window, fire, fire, fire. Very cold day it was. Fire. And they were all shouting, where, Peter, what? In every bloody room in this house, except mine, he says. Blind Peter. He'd be sitting down by, do you know where the train go under the tunnel?
Yeah.
But he'd always sit down there, like, and he'd have a card, I don't know, with a Blinds belt or something like that. And he had everyone knew what may God, they used to call him the beggars, I don't know, worry. I was a young fella. I remember one time they used to be begging all old rags, and his wife or his mother, his wife, I think. I remember she called me up, and some other fella standing inside in that there down the bank, and of course I was very delighted when I went down and told me mother. See where you? So Mrs. Beggar, we used to call her. She was going to the bag with me mother had just fluid and everything washing us down. The Arms House, that was in Peter Street. By Mechanics Hall there, you know? No Mechanics Hall.
No,
You do, Matt Talbot Hall.
oh, Matt Talbot, all right.
Yeah, Matt Talbot Hall there. Well, don't pit, it was next there, the big ruin of house altogether. To like the doll's house, two doll's house on top of one another, you know? But, so, that's the life of it now. We'll have a cup of tea.
Yeah. Thanks very much, Grandad.
Right, finished, sure.
Are you sure we will, yeah?
I'll put on the kettle, son.
Put water in it first, Harry.
I'll try that.
That was great. Thanks very much.